So, next. I've heard some people, usually designers, saying that, okay, no, I agree, accessibility is very important, but you know, like, the developers are the ones that are building the products. They're the ones that have to make sure that it's accessible. And I'm sure all of you here are more experienced and maybe know that's not true, but I'm just going to run through some examples of why accessibility starts way before the development phase. And so I'm going to talk about design, the role of designers in accessibility. And I'm going to start with the most obvious one, color, and specifically color contrast. And you may think, okay, everyone knows that we need to ensure that that the text has enough contrast to be read and all that, so why is she telling us this? Well, because while this is the most known issue probably, it's also the one that occurs the most. If you run an accessibility check in most websites, almost all of them fail this one. And so this might happen for a couple of reasons. We may start with a perfect color palette and we know exactly what combinations we can do, but throughout the development of the website, we add like a different color for the shadows that we end up using somewhere else, and then for the inputs and whatnot, and we end up with these 50 shades of gray or whatever color is, and I mean, the movie was bad, why would you do it to your websites? Another example of why color is important. We should avoid, first of all, obviously, the low contrast. There's a lot of this, what you see on the right side, placeholders being used as labels. And you know, in general, it's not good to have text that has such lower contrast, indicating important information. But also, if you rely on color alone to say like, oh, there's a link here, there are a lot of people that might miss it. And so there are two ways of fixing this. So using the actual labels for their purpose and using the placeholders only for extra information, and also relying on some sort of shape to indicate that there's some important content or interactive content. And we can do this with many things. So with microcopy or with icons or with patterns or font weights, there are many different ways that we can do this. But ideally, the main takeaway is don't rely on color alone for conveying an important message, such as providing feedback messages or highlighting important content. So this part, the labeling content and controls, might not always be a job for the designers. If you have a larger team, you might have someone writing the content, but for the sake of simplicity, I have included it here. And why is it important to label content? I'll tell you why. Oh, there should be sound. No sound?
44319fbe.png link.
Okay, let's hear that again.
Link image /KNA-MJGTQ1478101344319fbe.png link.
Great experience, huh? So this one is specifically for images. So labeling our content, such as images or icons, it's important for people relying on screen readers so that they know what they are interacting with or what the content is, and so we don't end up with experiences such as this. So in this case, we would want either to say the name of the product or company that's in the logo, or even say it's just home page, something like that. And as far as label goes for controls, well, it's easy. They should focus on the action and not the image, and they should be straight to the point. Because if you're listening to a website instead of seeing it, you don't want to spend 5 seconds in every button. And then we need to design for different types of interactions. So we need to prototype complex or custom interactions early if that's the case, if we're using more complex components. And one of the things that, there's a lot of different assistive technology. I'm going to focus on the keyboard for one reason. It's one of the most widely used. So it's used by people with blindness, with limited mobility, lack of precise muscle control, injuries such as like carpal tunnel, but also it is very used by power users who just prefer this form of navigation. And I think a lot of us here can probably relate to that, so that's why I'm focusing here. This little line of CSS comes from hell, and it is present in a lot of websites. Sometimes people don't even know that they have this on their websites because it comes with the reset CSS files that we just download from somewhere and never look at it just to make our styles consistent. And when I say this comes from hell, it's because taking this, just for context, the outlines are the things that appear around the elements when it's focused, so when we tap through the page. And taking this from people using the keyboard is like taking the cursor from people using the mouse. So it's a recipe for a poor experience. So what can we do? We can not do this at all and just leave it out of our CSS. But if you are super worried about the aesthetics of your website or whatever reason you have, then you should design custom focus states, not just eliminate them completely. So what do we need to design focus states for? Anything that's interactable. Some rules for this. They should stand out, should be very easy to spot where our focus currently is. So it can sort of match your brand, but it should not be like the same as the background. It should be some color that pops up. So make it pop. And then matching the shape and size of the element is also important so that it doesn't end up looking like some notification. And it doesn't have to be the same for all elements, but it should be the same across the same type of element and across browsers. So is it just a job for developers? Obviously not.